What if the one thing you cannot doubt is not the thing you think it is? Imagine finding an old photograph of yourself. You recognise the face, you remember the room, the clothes, perhaps even the person who held the camera. And yet the person in the picture can feel strangely distant, almost like someone whose life you inherited. They believed things you no longer believe. They wanted things you no longer want. They carried fears you may have forgotten and certainties you may now find impossible. Still, you point to the photograph and say, "That is me." But what exactly crossed the distance between that person and the person looking at the image now? The body changed, the memories changed, the personality changed. Even the story you tell about what happened has probably changed. So what gives you the right to use the same small word for both lives? Me. More than 3 centuries ago, René Descartes tried to find an answer by destroying every answer he could doubt. He was not beginning with confidence, he was beginning with intellectual vertigo. If the senses sometimes mislead us, perhaps they cannot provide perfect certainty. If dreams can feel real while they are happening, perhaps waking experience cannot certify itself simply by feeling vivid. And if deception could reach deeper than ordinary error, perhaps even the world he took for granted could be questioned. This was not doubt for the pleasure of being cynical. Descartes was looking for bedrock. He wanted one truth that could survive every imaginable collapse. So he removed the furniture of reality piece by piece. The room could be doubted. The body could be doubted. Memory could be doubted. Mathematics, under the most radical scenario, could be doubted. But then something happened. The act of doubting refused to disappear. If he was being deceived, deception was occurring. If he was mistaken, a mistake was occurring. If he doubted that he existed, the doubt itself was present. He could question the content of thought, but not the fact that thinking was happening in the very moment of the question. This is the force behind the famous line, "I think, therefore I am." It sounds like a conclusion, but its power may be closer to recognition. You do not need to build a logical bridge from thought to existence and then walk across it. In the living act of thinking, existence is already disclosed. Try to doubt that doubt is occurring, and the attempt becomes another instance of what you are trying to deny. For a moment, the floor holds. But here is the question that turns the entire story. What exactly has been proven? The ordinary version of the Cogito can sound as if Descartes discovered a complete person hiding inside the skull, a stable owner, a permanent personality, a private captain steering the body. Yet the immediate certainty is narrower. While thinking is occurring, existence cannot be denied. That does not automatically establish every belief attached to the word I. It does not prove that your memories are perfectly accurate. It does not prove that your personality is permanent. It does not prove that the voice in your head is a separate substance. It does not settle whether consciousness is produced by the brain, expressed through the brain, or described by a framework we have not yet invented. It does not even tell us, without further argument, how the thinker of this moment remains the same person tomorrow. The Cogito may secure presence before it secures biography. That distinction matters because most of us do not experience the word I as a bare philosophical point. We feel it instantly. I am my name. I am my history. I am my body. I am the person who succeeded, the person who failed, the person who was loved, the person who was left. We take an undeniable spark of presence and wrap it in 1,000 descriptions. Some descriptions are useful, some are beautiful, some are wounds wearing grammar. When someone says, "I am a failure," the sentence feels complete. but it quietly joins two very different things. There is the immediate fact that an experience is happening. Disappointment, shame, fear, fatigue. Then there is a story claiming that this experience reveals the permanent nature of the person having it. The feeling may be real. The conclusion may still be negotiable. To see why, it helps to separate three layers that normally arrive fused together. These are not three little people inside you. They are three ways the self becomes available. First, there is immediate presence. The simple fact that experience is occurring from somewhere, for someone, or at least as a first-person field. Before you say what you are, there is the felt immediacy of being here. Second, there is the embodied self, the sense that this hand is my hand, that I am located here rather than across the room, that the world appears from this perspective. This sense feels obvious, but research on bodily self-consciousness suggests that it depends partly on the brain integrating signals from vision, touch, balance, posture, and the interior of the body. Change the coordination of those signals, and aspects of self-location or body ownership can shift. This does not prove that the self is unreal. It shows that the self we inhabit is not delivered as a single, indivisible object. It is continuously composed through relationship, brain and body, body and environment, sensation and expectation. Your sense of being in here is not merely a philosophical idea. It is an embodied achievement. And now, the story becomes even more personal. The third layer is the narrative self, the character extended through time. This is the self with a childhood, a reputation, a future, a list of reasons. Human beings do not merely store events like files. We interpret them. We connect one memory to another. We decide which moments explain us and which moments do not count. Psychologists call part of this process autobiographical reasoning, the work of linking experiences into a coherent account of who we are. The story can provide continuity. It helps us make promises, repair relationships, learn from pain, and imagine a future. Without some narrative, life would not become more spiritual. It would become difficult to organise. But coherence is not the same as perfect accuracy. Memory is not a courtroom transcript. The meaning of an event can change when later events change the frame around it. A childhood silence, once remembered as rejection, may later be understood as a parent's exhaustion. A career failure may become the beginning of a vocation. A relationship, once described as wasted time, may become the place where a boundary was learned. The event has not vanished. The identity built around it has moved. So when you say, "that is me," you may be naming a living continuity, not an unchanging object. You are holding together a body that renews itself, memories that are reconstructed, habits that can be revised, and a first-person presence that keeps arriving only now. This is where the Cogito stops being a museum piece and becomes a mirror. Descartes believed the thinking self opened a path toward a distinction between mind and extended matter. Later thinkers challenged what he believed that path could support. Some argued that when they looked inward, they found no permanent self behind experience, only a changing bundle of perceptions. Others argued that experience requires a unifying point of view, even if that unity is not an object we can observe. Phenomenologists emphasise that consciousness often has a quiet first-person character before we turn around and think about ourselves explicitly. These positions do not fit into a simple scoreboard. Each notices something the others can neglect. The substance view protects the intuition that a person is more than a pile of events. The bundle view protects us from inventing a hidden object simply because grammar uses a subject. The unity view asks what must be true for scattered experiences to belong to one field at all. The phenomenological view reminds us that experience can be self-present before the sentence "I am experiencing" appears. And neuroscience adds another layer without ending the argument. It can investigate processes associated with body ownership, memory, attention, decision, and self-representation. It can show how altering a system alters experience. But a map of mechanisms is not automatically a final explanation of why there is experience in the first place. The relationship between brain activity and conscious life remains one of the deepest open problems we have. Saying this is not an invitation to fill the gap with whatever answer feels comforting. Mystery is not evidence for a preferred theory, but neither is an incomplete explanation evidence that the question is meaningless. The honest position is more demanding. Take the evidence seriously, take experience seriously, and refuse to pretend that either one has already swallowed the other. Now, return to the sentence. I think, therefore I am. What happens if the thought is, I am broken? The cogito does not certify the adjective. It certifies, at most, that thought is occurring and that existence cannot be eliminated from the occurrence. Broken belongs to the interpretation. The interpretation may point toward real pain, it may deserve care, action, accountability, or support, but it is not made metaphysically permanent merely because the mind attaches it to the word I.
The same is true of I am behind, I am unlovable, I am the successful one, I am the strong one. Even flattering identities can become prisons when life demands that we change. Try a small experiment, not as therapy and not as a test you can fail. Notice one sentence you have repeated about yourself. Let it arrive exactly as it usually does. Then remove the description for a breath. Instead of, I am a failure, notice, disappointment is here. Instead of, I am anxious, notice, tension, prediction, and uncertainty are here. Instead of, I am successful, notice, pride, relief, pressure, and memory are here. Nothing real has to be denied. The body is still speaking. Consequences still matter. History still matters. The change is grammatical but not trivial. You are no longer forcing a passing state to serve as the complete definition of the one who experiences it. For one breath, doubt the description without doubting the experience. What remains? Perhaps there is no dramatic revelation. Perhaps there is only sound, pressure, warmth, thought, and the strange intimacy of being present. That is enough. The point is not to escape identity. The point is to see identity as something more alive than a verdict. You need a name to answer when someone calls. You need memory to keep faith with the people you love. You need a story to know what you are building. But you may not need to confuse these necessary structures with an eternal sentence. The self can be both real and revisable.
A melody is real, even though no single note contains it. A river is real, even though its water changes. A promise is real, even though the person who keeps it is transformed by keeping it. Continuity does not always require immobility. Perhaps this is why an old photograph can feel like both a stranger and yourself. You are not identical to every belief that person held, yet their choices, wounds, and hopes participate in the life standing here now. You do not have to reject them to admit that the word me has grown. Descartes searched for certainty by stripping the world away. The result was not a complete portrait, it was a pulse. Thinking is happening. Existence cannot be erased from this moment. Everything after that pulse remains a question. What kind of thing thinks? How does a body become a point of view? How does memory become identity? What continues through sleep, silence, change, and the moments when thought becomes still? The Cogito does not close those questions, it opens them. Maybe the deepest freedom in I think, therefore I am is not the permission to worship thought. Maybe it is the permission to doubt every cruel description thought places after the words I am. You are not required to call the story false. You are invited to notice that someone is reading it, revising it, and sometimes putting it down. So look once more at the old photograph. The face belongs to your history. The story belongs to your becoming. And the awareness looking now cannot be captured completely by either frame. I think, therefore I am. But who is the I before the description arrives? What remains of you when everything you can honestly change is allowed to change? Tell us in the comments, which sentence about yourself are you ready to question?